After somehow managing to split the excited crowd, Rose's group left. All the people forgot about eating and sent Rose off with 3 cheers. Outside, a line of luxury cars was already waiting for them. "We're rooting for you, Rose." "Sorry to barge in on you like that today. Was it a burden?" "Not at all. I'd like you to be drop by whenever you feel like it. We'll welcome you with open arms. As for the soy sauce, I'm counting on you. Whether we get distribution up or not depends on the consumers. Of course, I'll help out, so please make it cheaper and cheaper." "This way, madam." "Bye then, Claudia. Thank you so much, everyone." "Better Rose!" After that, even after Rose got into the car and closed the door, the cheering continued. The car started up, and Rose continued to wave at them until they disappeared from the car window. God, I hate the people. Were you able to get a good sense of the public's attitude? Yeah, I could feel how food culture equals people's confidence. When the American and Chinese scattered food from the countries around for free, it was nothing more or less than assault on our own food culture. When food culture is lost, a people loses a big part of their identity. To be honest, I used to think that the soy sauce business was foolish, but have you been convinced? Indeed, a man's narrow field of vision can't even conceive of such a thing. The support of the city folk makes it for a wonderful tailwind. I must apologize for doubting you. They say that women have to grab 3 bags, right? With wage increases, we grab them by the bag of their wallets. With soy sauce, we grab them by the bag of their stomachs. And you can grab me by the fucking bag of my fucking balls, hell yeah. And the 3rd bag was Primavera's greatest specialty, was it not? Got 'em. Easy. True. Rose was in high spirits after hearing the passionate voice of the city folk. She could probably feel a favorable wind at her back. Though it probably shouldn't be bag, it should be like bulge, but whatever. That would actually probably work better, but whatever. However, it didn't show the townspeople if they didn't show the townspeople another legendary night, Primavera would be treated like a mere charitable organization. Because that, some people would fear the GDS and crack easily, like they're doing now. They had to make it clear that Primavera was a violent organization, no stronger or weaker than the GDS. Oh, we're stronger. It would only be possible to carry out Rose's ideals if they preserved their position as conquerors of the underworld, earning both fear and respect. Richard has been worrying over the right timing to discuss this with Rose. However, perhaps today's talk would be a perfect opportunity. Still, I'm glad Lee's safe. Though I am a bit worried about this person he supposedly wants us to introduce us to. After being completely unable to contact Lee, he had suddenly contacted them. Judging by his behavior during the feud with Caleb, Lee tended to break contact when it was inconvenient for him. Since word had suddenly come from him, it probably meant that while it was sudden for Primavera, Lee's side had just finished preparing for something. Who on earth could it be? I wonder if a high-ranking member of City 22's GDS is coming to negotiate for the special offers windows. Let's see, a reasonable supposition. For a deal regarding the special offers windows, a considerable supply of money would have to change hands. True enough, it wouldn't be strange for someone even bigger than Lee to come from City 22, the main base of the GDS. But the GDS had been behind the recent embezzlement case. If they decide to enter negotiations for the windows, they would have sent orders to City 23 telling their men to refrain from such actions. Well, yeah, because it didn't work. In any event, we had better not let our guards down. They've been invited to an expensive restaurant in City 22's Pleasure District. The City 22 was run by the Chinese military. The whole city was a massive Chinatown. Small Rock Chinatown in City 23 felt like nothing more than a Chinese town in Japan, but this was a whole different story. Yeah, they even changed the music. Though they had only crossed between cities, this was clearly a foreign country, China itself. The restaurant was in a dazzling building that looked like a Chinese-themed mall. There was a red carpet laid out in front of the entrance, and there stood a line of GDS guards, Lee and a man who seemed to be an executive slightly older than middle-aged. When Rose and Richard got out of the car, the man held out a hand with a great big smile. They immediately understood that this was today's key person. Wow, such a lovely lady! How cruel little am I not to introduce me to such a beautiful woman. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Rose Haibara. I am Wang Yonghong. It is such an honor to meet you, Madam Rose. I hear you have been taking good care of our little Mai. You have my thanks. Thank you for everything. Your Japanese is excellent. I must say I'm impressed. Don't be impressed. Don't give this guy any fucking praise. Fuck him. Fuck this dude, okay? My honored brother is quite the hard worker. He's mastered several languages in addition to Japanese. I don't care. Fuck you. After all, the number of languages you speak becomes your business power. English and Chinese are a given, but you must also learn the native language in many other countries. I apologize for not studying Chinese harder. Fuck Chinese. Oh, that's just fine. The Chinese language is a profound one, after all. But I'm sure I'm sure one as clever as you can master it in no time. Right, little Mai? After all, my honored brother is extremely talented when it comes to teaching things to young ladies. Fuck you. Haha, this guy. Haha. Allow me to introduce this man. This is Richard Mayugi, who serves as my advisor. Yeah. Mr. Wang. Whoa! Chinese. I saw a fucking hello in there, but I don't know Chinese. His flippant attitude made him seem like a mere energetic lecturer. However, Richard already knew that this was the man who had caused the massive soy sauce embezzlement incident by paying off the distributors. His caution might have shown in his eyes. Wang offered to shake Richard's hand with entirely different warmth than what he'd shown Rose. A pleasure. I've heard rumors that you're Madam's famous counselor. The pleasure is mine. It was an honor to meet that. You are the superior of Lee, a man I respect. The two crossing gazes were razor sharp. Both seemed certain that the other one was the other side's key person. Richard was convinced that this was a cunning tactician, Wang was convinced that Rose was a symbolic leader, with Richard being a practical leader. Well then, please come in, Madam Rose. This shop is my castle, and I'm quite fond of it. I'm so glad I got to invite you here. I fucking hate Wang. I really fucking hate Wang. He's a fucking snake. And after taking Rose's hand, Wang led everyone inside the majestic double doors. In the entrance, which was decorated in a distinctly Chinese manner, there were several gorgeously displayed ornamental clocks. It left an impression far greater than one would expect from the entrance of a restaurant, feeling more like a small but dignified museum. Amazing. Is this your collection, Wang? Well, I love clocks. For some reason, that distinctive sound ticking the sound away, seconds away, has always held my heart captive. Intriguing hobby. Not only are those all gorgeous, but they're splendid rarities overflowing with history. The ticking of time has no relation to one's rank. It ticks the time the same for nobles and commoners. If you put it that way, clocks are proof that all people are equal. But that is something I find somewhat frustrating. Frustrating? I want to be more than just equal. Regardless of whether one studies hard and works hard, or does nothing and is satisfied with laziness, time passes the same for us all, does it not? I'm not satisfied with that. When someone works hard and achieves something great, shouldn't they be given more time? How ignorant God must be to not understand the difference between lazy fools and hard workers, and to hand out time to everyone within flexible rules. So, my hobby of collecting clocks is a minor act of rebellion against God. A man like me, who has worked twice as hard as the average person, should have the right to buy time with the money he's saved up as a result of his efforts. You see? If money could buy time, a romantic novel, notion. Honored brother, if you don't put your love of clocks aside for a bit, you won't be able to show off your favorite device. Oh no, that's no good at all. Look at the time. That's enough talk of clocks for now. Please come inside. Wayne looked at the clock, then led the group into the main hall. The clock was about to show 7 o'clock. The massive, well-holed style entrance hall was decorated with elegant ornaments that lit up with a refined dim glow. A grand piano for live performances made the room look even fancier. This was a high-class restaurant available only to the special members that were acknowledged as ladies and gentlemen. All of the small number of guests wore expensive suits and had the feel of executives about them. This was Wang's prized restaurant, and also his castle. He guided them to a table that had been prepared for Rose's group, but for some reason he didn't invite them to sit down. Yeah, who needs to sit down? He beckoned with a mischievous smile. What is it? Wang stood in front of the extravagantly decorated cabinet, with two doors opening from the center. It had a large, ostentatious keyhole in the middle, but it didn't feel like a safe. It felt more like a treasure box to hold a prized possession. As you can see, this is one of my treasure boxes. It holds alcohol from across the world. The sort just perfect for dinner on a splendid day. And is that the key to this alcohol treasure box? From his pocket, Wayne pulled a key wrapped in silk cloth. It was a gold key with a luxurious design, fitting for the key to a treasure box. He handed the key to Rose with a wink. Can you not? Why don't you try opening it? Use the key. Rose took the key and nervously put it in the keyhole. However, no matter which way she turned it, it didn't budge. She couldn't imagine that it was the wrong key, and she couldn't imagine that there was any other way to open it. With a puzzled expression, Rose gave up and shrugged. At that moment, a loud sound. No music. No. Surely this was a musical performance of a clock. The clocks on display throughout the restaurant pointed their hour and minute hands straight up, and began playing music to announce the hour. Several sounds and bits of music mixed together, so you couldn't pick up out any single one. But it was impressive in a way that was hard to describe. Overwhelming, you could say. Rose, try using the key once more. Huh? Again? Quickly now, before the clocks finish the chorus. Confused, Rose put the key in the keyhole one more time and turned it. As she did, it spun with unbelievable ease, and she felt a light resistance as the lock was unlocked. Easy, fucking peasy. It's unlocked. Now this is odd. Interesting, isn't it? It's my honored brother's favorite device. It's my belief that the contents of a treasure box shine more the harder it is to open. But on the other hand, if it's really difficult to open, there's no point. I see. So there's a limit on the times during which it can be opened. Oh, so you can only open while the clocks are chiming. That sounds extremely fucking extra. Well spotted. In other words, even I, the person holding the key, cannot open it when I want to, unless it's the right time. I think this is probably the same spark that makes the girls at Primavera Club shine so brightly. You can't see them all the time, the frustration of not being able to see them when you want to. Yes, yes, man is a lewd animal. If they could see those women all the time, they would lose their charm. The thought of lovers only being able to meet in a secret for a limited time. Sounds romantic. Okay, that's enough showing off my devices. Now let's move to showing off the more important thing that's inside. What's inside? Come now, Madame Rose, from which bottle shall we partake? My first service to my guest is always to let them choose. Thank you. Behind the open doors were choice of liquors from around the world. When Rose showed interest in one, Wang would happily relate deep stories involving that bottle. This continued until Rose finished selecting bottles and tasting them. Thanks, weirdo. To continue ties of friendship between the GDS and Primavera. To our prosperity and expansion. Cheers. They all clinked their glasses together and were welcomed by applauding waiters in a piano performance. Then, amidst a peaceful atmosphere, the curtain rose on the Primavera's meal with the GDS. And they ate. I hear Madame Rose is quite passionate about soy sauce circulating these days. The tradition of Japanese-style soy sauce started with something in China in the 5th century by the Western calendar, and was later developed into a uniquely Japanese product. Even the drops of the Japanese soul can be traced back to Chinese culture. Japanese soy sauce and Chinese-style soy sauce ought to be on good terms. Our chefs have exercised their talents today, using the roots of Japanese soy sauce as a theme. I hope you enjoy it. When Lee clapped his hands, beautiful women in lovely China dresses brought them out. Chinese dresses, holy fuck. This wasn't Lee's style. It was probably a safe bet that Wang was behind this presentation. Captivated by the girl's butts, Wang rose his glass happily. To Chinese-Japanese friendship, China and Japan are brothers after all. We ought to get along. The Chinese certainly don't despise the Japanese anymore. The Second Sino-Japanese War was nothing more than a fight between brothers. On the contrary, the Chinese army came here to protect the Japanese island from the Americans, who despise Asians. I think we can both prosper while respecting each other's culture. Indeed we can! China is a broad-minded country. We're the only large country who gave profit to neighboring nations, even to the point of starving ourselves as long as they paid us respect. You're referring to the Imperial Chinese tribute. In Japan, they also called it envoy to the soy, sui, and envoy to the tang. Old China received tribute from the neighboring countries. Yeah, because they're fucking jerk-offs. The word tribute brings the name of the vision of a larger country striking fear into the smaller surrounding countries, forcing them to pay tribute. It wasn't like, hey, buddy, I like you, have some money. However, the successive Chinese emperors who received tribute displayed their majesty and virtue by giving gifts even more valuable than what they had received. In other words, with this tribute system, there were fewer things given as tribute than there were rewards given in return. So ancient Japan wanted to abide by this tribute so much that they loaded up as much tribute as they could muster and crossed the rough sea of Japan at all costs. To Japan, which wanted to learn culture from a major cultural powerhouse, this was a very valuable opportunity. On the receiving end, the Chinese always gave back more than they were offered, and the financial burden was no minor matter. However, they were so determined not to refuse the respect for China that was being shown them that they return. Oh my fuck! Holy fuck! However, they were so determined not to refuse the respect for China that was being shown to them that they returned more than they were given, even if it hurt them. God, holy. That burden ended up being considerable. And later on, even though China was the one receiving tribute, they actually restricted it themselves in a strange turn of affairs. That tribute can be viewed as one example of the Chinese historically choosing name over substance. However, the Japanese were the exact opposite, choosing substance over name. Old Japanese history books refer to this tribute as trade. They never wrote that messengers to the Sui and Tang dynasties displayed respect for the Chinese emperors and paid tribute. There are some history books left which write that the Japanese sold off those gifts, which were a result of the emperor choosing name over substance right on the spot. Fucking dudes. They say the Japanese used that money to buy up advanced techniques and culture before returning home with full ships. They took treasures that were given to them in exchange for respect and sold them off for practical uses. That was the Japanese style trade, choosing substance over name. The ancient Japanese treated this as a fair deal made with the Chinese dynasty, and wrote that the Chinese emperor had acknowledged them as equals. This didn't amuse the Chinese, who had abandoned substance for name. China had given those gifts in exchange for respect, but the Japanese were claiming that this was a deal agreed to by two equal partners. What the fuck? You aren't sucking our cock? The countless differences between Chinese and Japanese understandings of history go all the way back to the era of Himiko, when tribute was taking place. As a side note, at this time, the GHQ was compiling material for Japanese history textbooks, intending to correct them. Of course, the corrections. That totally aren't misinformation or some stupid shit like that. Our people take respect very seriously. Madame Rose shows a lot of respect for the GDS. Trust me. Too much. Of course, I always look up to you, as another organization working to protect its countrymen. I'm sure we can coexist as good neighbors. Huh? Remember. Mumble, mumble, mumble. Oops, how rude of me. I forgot to say you spoke Chinese, Richard. That was just a joke. Slip of the tongue. Forgive me. Rip his fucking cock off. What they actually said was unclear, but going by appearances, Wang had probably said something sarcastic and Richard heard it. Wang seemed to be affable, but of course that probably wasn't all there was to it. After a brief uncomfortable silence, this farce of a meal ended, and they finally moved on to the main topic. I invited you here today for a clear reason. I wanted to confirm the ties of friendship between the GDS and Primavera. Fuck off. I say you won't remember the war from 1 year ago. When you rose up against Father Caleb, I believe the GDS gave you support for free. We're deeply grateful for that. Ever since then, we have believed that GDS and Primavera were in friendly relationship. However, recently there's been a lot of trouble due to that Japanese labor union. You can fuck off. I believe we offered you the chance to address the situation beforehand. Unfortunately, our aims were not understood, and we were forced into an undesirable resolution. You mean Little Song? Well, there was a little misunderstanding about that case. Misunderstanding? We proposed joint management of public order around the employment agency, a proposal which you refused repeatedly. As a result, there are repeated cases of Chinese men having jobs forcibly stolen from them by violent Japanese men in front of the employment agency. That's the first I've heard of this. Please don't play dumb. So after being roughed up by the Japanese, they came crying to Little Song. Little Song is a nice guy. He's the sword who couldn't bear to hear them suffer. Leave them to suffer. The backdoor employment agency incident happened because Primavera refused to allow joint management around the employment agency. That was Wang's claim. It's a bullshit claim. Anyway, we've continued to suffer greatly because of you. The Council of Elders is even proposing a ridiculous things, like saying we should declare war on Primavera to break out of the situation. I think that's nonsense. There's nothing to gain from fighting with Primavera. We agree with that. We have nothing to gain from fighting with the GDS. Still, you're the ones actually attacking us, aren't you? No, you are. It's not like we ever intended to. We've suffered greatly because of your influence. The laborers are clamoring for the same wages as Primavera, and City 22 is turning to Swiss cheese from the uproar. All over the place, we have labor boycotts, sabotage, demonstrations, violence, and theft taking place. The financial loss caused by this has been immense. It was quiet in City 23, the eye of the storm, so Primavera probably found this hard to imagine. However, massive disturbances were being stirred up in surrounding cities. Good. Since Primavera had planned ahead with the GHQ and gained their protection, hardly any of this was reported on. But the riots were breaking out all over the place. However, these riots had started when laborers noticed that thievery by the special offers windows holders and raised their voices in anger. It is a righteous protest. Primavera felt it could question why they should be held responsible for those riots, but to the GDS, which is responsible for maintaining public order in City 22, there could be no greater breach of trust. If trust in us wavers, the hearts of the people will be thrown into chaos. Several incidents caused by this have already been reported by us. This is all your responsibility. We'll be forced to demand compensation for the loss. You cannot, you do not have the fucking gall to turn this on us? Really? Oh, Rose, if you take this sitting down, I'm gonna be so fucking mad. The absolute fucking gall of this fuck. Oh, so you claim to bear no responsibility for this at all? Nope. The responsibility all is yours, and now it's the GDS's duty to protect Chinatown's peace from the Primavera's attack. At this rate, there'll be a war that neither side wants will break out. What a tragedy! Wayne displayed his grief as though he was acting in an opera or something. Oh, he's jerking off on the table. It's hard to tell how much of what this man said was serious and how much was a joke. His entire existence is a joke. What I want to make absolutely clear is that my honored brother didn't come here as a messenger, bearing a declaration of war. He's only here as a messenger of peace. You know what his peace brings? My fucking dick.